international study conference in which I was introduced to some famous universities in Europe to study overseas.
Was it organized indoors or outdoors?
It was an indoor event.
Who sponsored the event?
The event organizer was the Education Department of America Center, but the university introduced in the conference were the ones who paid.
Yeah, so hello. Why don't you continue? What you want? Why don't you read?
I don't heard the question, teacher.
So any problems?
Yes.
Why? Why did you pause? Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I would change to change the partner. Hello, Michelle?
Yes, teacher.
Yeah, I need you to rate with Tu Chang. Okay, Tu Chang, you read questions.
Yes, child. How many events have you joined this year? What were they about?
I have joined more than 10 events so far, most of which were about education.
What was your most memorable event?
Yeah, very good. Okay.
The most memorable for me was an international study conference in which I was introduced to some famous university in Europe to study overseas.
Was it organized indoor or outdoor?
It was an indoor event.
Who sponsors the event?
The event organizers was the Education Department of American Center, but the university introduced in the conference were the ones who paid.
Who went to the event with you?
I went there with my friends who share the same interest in studying abroad as me.
Was there some performance in the event?
There were not many performances. Each university representative just had a speech introduce their school to start to students and then they host Q&A session.
Was the event shown on TV?
The event was not aired, but there were television advert advertisement for it.
How will someone make an event?
Taking advantage of social media is a smart way to promote an event.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So then I would like Mr. Right Tonarat to read. Hello, Tonarat?
Yes, teacher.
Yeah, please read with the panda. Hello, panda? Do you hear me,
Hello,
panda?
teacher.
Okay, you read questions. Okay, Narat, you read answers.
Yes, teacher.
Yeah.
How many events have you joined this year? What were they about?
I have joined more than 10 events so far, most of which were were about education.
What was your most
Yeah.
memorable event?
Yeah.
The most memorable for me was an international student conference in which I was introduced to some famous universities in Europe to study overseas.
Was it what is the teacher?
How was it organized?
Organized on overnight, indoor or outdoor?
It was an indoor event.
Yeah. And then who sponsored?
Who sponsored the event?
The event organizer was the Education Department of American Center, but the university's intro introduct in the
Introduce, not introduct. Introduce.
introduced in the conference were the ones who paid.
Who went to the event? With you?
I went there with my friends who share the same interest in studying abroad as me.
What were some performance in the event?
There were not many performances. Each university representative just had the speech to introduce their school to students, and then they host Q&A session.
Was the event shown on TV?
The event was not air, but they were television advertisement for it.
How someone market? Sorry, teacher. Again. How someone market in event?
Talking advantage of social media is a smart way to promote an event. Thank you, teacher.
Yeah, thank you. I need one more pair to read, okay? Yeah. Hello. Yeah, Lee Satika. Hello, Satika.
Yes, teacher.
You read with Jin Sojita. Lee Satika, you read questions, okay? Jin
Yes,
Sojita,
teacher.
you read answers.
Yes, teacher.
Okay. And wait. And others, you need to write down some words on the screen and I dropped read it to the class. Please copy. Okay, so stand up.
How many events have you joining this year? Were what were they about?
I have joined more than 10 events so far. So far, most of which were about education.
What was your most
Yeah,
The
so
most memorable for me was an international international study conference in which I was introduced to some famous uh, university in teacher how do you read this word?
was it organized indoor or outdoor?
It was an indoor event.
Who can you read this word?
The event organizer was the education department for South American Center, but the university introduced in this conference were the ones who paid.
Who went to the event with your
I went there with my friend who had the same interest in studying about as me.
what were some performance in the event?
There's not many performance. Each university representative just had a speech to introduce their school to students, and then they host a Q&A session.
Was the event shown on TV?
The event was not aired, but there was television advertisement for it.
How was someone market our event?
Taking advantage of social media in a smart ways to promote an event. Thank you, teacher.
yeah, thank you. So now I would like to play the listening, and yeah, you have to listen and also pay attention with all sentences. Okay, listen and look.
How many events have you joined this year? What were they about?
I have joined more than 10 events so far, most of which were about education.
What was your most memorable event?
The most memorable for me was an international study conference in which I was introduced to some famous universities in Europe to study overseas.
Was it organized indoors or outdoors?
It was an indoor event.
Who sponsored the event?
The event organizer was the Education Department of American Center, but but the universities introduced in the conference were the ones who paid.
Who went to the event with you?
I went there with my friends, who shared the same interest in studying abroad as me.
What were some performances in the event?
There were not many performances. Each university representative just had a speech to introduce their school to students, and then they hosted Q&A session.
Was the event shown on TV?
The event was not aired, but there were television advertisements for it.
How would someone market an event?
Taking advantage of social media is a smart way to promote an event.
Okay, so I don't play the listening here on the YouTube one. You need to copy some words quickly, okay? And then we read words and translate, all right? Okay?